enough room on my computer. Continuing on, I'm going to repost this. We were at, what, 6? 5. I hope you all were able to get 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we are on 5. I'm going to post this up on YouTube since Blackboard won't open. Gotta laugh. I told you it was Murphy's Law Day. So, okay, did we finish there? No, we didn't. Okay, so I was speaking about people of Hispanic descent and how that is now constitutes America's largest minority. And then, of course, we all know from our historical studies that the history of the U.S. that Native Americans were forcibly moved from their ancestral land. And their religious rituals and cultural activities were suppressed by Christian missionaries and government bureaucrats. In the process, much of traditional Native musical culture was lost. We can, however, still find some Native American music, flute playing, and drum circles, powwow performances in plain, that should be capitalized, plains style, which would be this area. And I actually went to a powwow when I was a little girl. My dad brought us to a powwow. It was so random, and it was wonderful. I loved it. I still remember that, and I couldn't have been more than 7 or 8. So, and then there's the throat singing of the Inuit peoples from Canada and Alaska, which is really cool on one side, but then when I hear it, I go, oh, that's gotta hurt. I'm like, oh, ouch, that's gotta hurt. But, okay, moving on to 6. I hope I have enough room on my computer. Here we go. In many ways, Canada is not well known by those of us who are Americans, although the U.S. and Canada are very similar in heritage and lifestyle. Let's put an and in there. Canada and Canadians proudly maintain a very distinct identity. Canada has attracted immigrants from around the world, and it's home to many Native American people, which they call First Nations. Since Canada's population is small, the significance of non-European immigrants and First Nations people is of much greater, it's more profound than it is here in the U.S. They are a country of immigrants. Here we still have, how do I say this? Those of us who are of European descent. So French Canadian culture is also important, especially in the little enclaves, particularly Quebec, where they speak their own French language. Although I did see a part of a speech by Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, in France, and he was fluently speaking his Canadian French in the meeting, which was really beautiful. Okay, it has very ethnically diverse urban areas. Winnipeg is not far from us here in Valley City, and that is one of them. In fact, one of my best friends who's from Malaysia, has his doctorate in piano from Northwestern University, is becoming a Canadian citizen, and he loves Winnipeg. In contrast with the culturally uniform populations, the Eurocentric populations, which are mostly rural, kind of similar to this area. And these areas continue to maintain long practiced traditions. And our example of Canadian music is therefore from a rural area, Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia, which I have not been to, and I would love to go. I want to go to Prince Edward Island and be Anne of Green Gables. I know! Is that crazy? I know. Okay. Here we go. We are arriving in Canada, which is not far from Rochelle and I. We could get there about, what, hour and a half, maybe? Is it a little more than that? 3 hours north. Okay, a little further than I thought. I teach up at, or have taught in the past, at International Music Camp up north of Dunseth, North Dakota, not far from where Janessa was living, right? That right on the Canadian border. It's gorgeous up there. Beautiful country. So, and we always go into Canada for ice cream. Just saying. Oh, it has, on this recording that we're going to be listening to, it features a violinist, which we call a fiddler, right? Performing with piano and guitar, has a vaguely Celtic feel. I'm going to check to see if I'm still here. Yes, I am. And dancing feet would typically accompany this music. Guy named Buddy McMaster, one of Canada's best known and loved fiddlers, plays a jig, again in our example, the golden keyboard. So, jig is known for its vigorous rising and falling movements. It's a type of Scottish dance, and it came to North America with immigrants who, I should probably say immigrants, settled in Nova Scotia, which literally means New Scotland. Metrically organized 6/8, but felt in 2. The key is A minor. The range is limited because most folk fiddlers only play in first position, so they don't reach up to go above first position. Most jigs consist of just 2 or 3 short sections, each of which is only 8 measures long. So our example is AABB, AABB, AA. Very simple. Some of the repetitions incorporate variations. Now, the violins that fiddlers typically play are either locally made or bought by mail order at modest price. Not the expensive, beautiful violins that are used in classical music. They're often used for indoor dancing, at least in Cape Breton, because families with properly furnished parlors usually had a piano, and it became customary, therefore, for fiddlers to be accompanied by a pianist. If parlors were large enough, they would dance. Friends and neighbors would come, and there would be lots of dancing. So I'm hoping that my iPhoto is going to hang in here. We're going to turn to CD 214 and listen to some fiddling. So this is Buddy McMaster, as we know. It's with Mac Morin, too. Oh, what page number did I say? There we go. Okay. So right away you're going to listen for the violin, guitar, and piano. And then the main melody in the opening section, the A section. Here we go. Oh, so I got this working last week. Let's see if it's going to work. Oh, here we go. Oh, that's so not it. Although that's awesome. Where are we? Africa! Okay, hold on a second. Sorry. This is B. We're in B now. Here we go. It repeats. Back into A. There we hear the double harmonies, or the double stops, sorry, which would create harmony. And there we have it. That's so fun. I've always loved fiddling. Very similar to the Appalachian fiddling that we hear in the U.S., of course. So, there you have it. Happy feet. You saw the movie, didn't you? Oh, so cute, right? Okay, we are going to leave Canada, our friends in Canada. And, actually, we need to do the cultural. Sorry, we'll do a little bit of cultural. Up on the Atlantic side of Canada, we have New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland. Someday I shall visit there. It is on my bucket list. It's getting really big. The population is relatively diverse, but it is mostly from the British Isles, especially Scottish. The people there, their heritage. And some of them were Gaelic speakers and have maintained, I missed a V there, didn't I? Song traditions to the best of their abilities. Of course, as the years go by, that changes a little if it's oral tradition. The traditional context for their music making was something that looks, of course, when you look at it, you think Kaylee, right? And there, for those of you who read IPA, it's pretty. You look at it and you go, how's that pronounced? Kaylee, of course. A kind of house party that is, along with singing fiddle music, it was very popular. So. Great Britain is now known for its revival in the Gaelic arts, part of the International Celtic Revival. It's made music and dance the primary markers of the Scottish identity there in Cape Breton. Although the fiddling tradition in Cape Breton consists primarily of Scottish dance music, there is some cross-pollination going on up there, up north, between French Acadian and Scottish styles. So they're starting to mix a little bit. Natalie McMaster, Buddy's niece, has kind of brought modernization up front and has played and is playing updated Cape Breton fiddle tunes along with some very innovative compositions. We're not going to listen to any today, but you can look her up if you wish. It might be fun. Here we go. We're back in the good old US of A. Finally. Time to unpack. Though we're going to travel to the Appalachian area, and this is also a nod to my mom and dad. I don't know if this recorded when Blackboard crashed on us. So I was saying that I was looking, because this was Murphy's Law, I got here a little late today, just in time for class, from teaching in Moorhead this morning, and I was looking for my Shape Note hymnal, which was my mother's hymnal. Cannot find it, so I'm a little heartsick about that. I'm going to need to look for that. I was hoping to hold up a Shape Note book for you, a hymnal in Shape Notes, not the Sacred Harp to speak of, because I don't own that. But anyway, my father, as I had said earlier, sounds just like the men who are singing in our recording. And I remember my mother reading the Shape Notes as a child. So this is a part of my heritage. And so it really has been kind of fun to be able to share this with you. Okay, so because the U.S. is a country of immigrants, superimposed, I like that from the textbook, superimposed on the original culture of Native Americans. Our culture here is highly complex, very complex. Point. Even though jazz is distinctly American, it covers a multitude of styles, contemporary and historical, and there's no one audio that could capture the essence of all these different styles. So how do we capture the essence of U.S. music? There are subculture upon subculture upon subculture, subcultures of subcultures here in the United States. Everything you can imagine, which makes us so American. People might be of a particular language or religion or an original culture or some other factor that will make them a part of a subculture. There are groups of people still here in the U.S. or now who are completely insulated from the mainstream culture, and they live out their original culture and never use English. And then there are groups who are totally assimilated into American society, and then there are groups everywhere in between. Of the immigrant cultures, the first to establish themselves were the English and the Germans. And if you didn't know this, German almost became the national language. In fact, there were more German speakers than English speakers. But I forget how the process, how it all happened, but English won out and was chosen instead. And that is why we have our crazy language instead of German. So random. But anyway, we love English, don't we? 2 areas in the U.S. have preserved traditional Anglo music more than others. New England and the Southern Appalachians. And yes, that's how that's pronounced. Appalachian. For my IPA readers, there you go. Economically disadvantaged communities have been increasingly incorporated into modern American life, but a good deal of collecting of ballads and songs and dance music of the last 100 years has helped to preserve important examples of the music that was once very, very common and very distinctive throughout these 2 regions. So here we go, singing school-shaped note music. The first thing that you will hear when you listen, which I will, again, just to remind you, I encourage you, of course we're almost done with class now, but to listen to the oral examples first, and then read about them, and then start listening again. But this is how 4-part harmony, this is how most people learn to read music, was through the teaching of 4-part harmony techniques, which is what we're losing now with the contemporary music that's happening in churches. People are no longer, or they're not reading music anymore, not harmonizing, which kills me. So anyway, that's just one reason that I love hymnary and hymns. I know it's very Eurocentric, but I really do love hymns, and a lot of it's because people learn to read music that way. But I digress. So the teaching of the 4-part harmony techniques, earlier found in New England, capital N, in the towns and also in the rural areas throughout the United States, as in my mother and father, who transplanted from Pennsylvania. So that was almost New England at that point. It is often referred to as all-day singing with dinner on the ground. I remember this as a child. Singing all day. And then, of course, potluck. Ooh, yeah. My favorite thing in the world. You know what potluck is, right? They know what yeah, they have to. We won't tell them what it is if they can't figure it out. All you all out there who don't know our traditions here in North Dakota and Minnesota. Our track. Oh, wait. So our track features these unaccompanied vocalists. First time through, you're going to hear them singing syllables, not words. Their tone is nasal and strident. And in this case, it has a southern twang. My father did not have a southern twang, but these people do. After all sing a line together, each part comes in one after another, and then they all 4 sing together to the end. So the oral analysis is that the singers are arranged in a square, and each holds a thick oblong book entitled The Original Sacred Harp. Denson should be Denson revision. A male singer, you can hear my dad now, first intones the 3 pitches of the triad, the basic triad, which defines the key, in this case written in A minor, although the male who intones will often kind of figure out the comfort range of his singers and will intone a pitch that will be comfortable for everybody. Exhortation is an example of one of the most interesting song types in this tradition, called fuguing. It's a fuguing tune. It has a slight resemblance to a round, but they really are closer to a fugue, thus the title fuguing tune. After the first section, where all the four parts sing together in harmony, a single voice part, usually a bass, starts what sounds like a simple fugue, followed by the tenors. Then either the upper two parts, called the counter, which is the alto, and the treble. Going on to the next statement, the actual melody line is found in the tenor part, with the counter and treble providing harmonic parts. So when I was growing up and singing with my dad, he would sing the melody, and and that's why I was so comfortable singing up high, because that was the tradition. He sang the melody, I sang the harmony on top of him. That's all from the shape note music tradition. So the actual melody line found in the tenor part, with the counter and treble providing harmonic parts, typically of virtually all singing schools, which developed in England and was a favorite form of the early New England singing schools. So in our example, all four parts begin singing simultaneously. The first time through the tune it is customary to sing in syllables. It's kind of like a reduced solfege. They use fa, sol, la, mi. While the music seems to be in a minor key, it really is the ancient church mode Aeolian, which preceded the development of the major and minor tonal system. In A minor, the G would be sharp, but here it is natural, so it gives it that archaic natural scale sound. At the very end, when you listen to if you listen to the first and then the very end, the last chords, there are two different pitches that are sounded, A and E. The C normally, if we were singing or creating music, we would probably add that to fill the chord out, but not always in shape note singing. Sometimes it's only an interval of a fifth, and it gives the music a hollow sound. It gives it that kind of old American sound. And then the way the vocal lines move sometimes produces dissonance caused by the clashing of the neighboring pitches. Here we go. Very excited for you to hear this. CD 215, Listening Guide 289. Syllables. Lyrics are coming up. I can hear my uncles and aunt and my dad singing this. Oh my goodness gracious, is that every time I hear it, I go right back to my childhood. Oh, right. So there you have it. Shape note school singing. Singing school shape note singing. Okay. So, very interestingly, if you didn't know this, many of the colonists in New England were members of the dissenting churches. Kathleen Hayes and I have had some conversation. She's one of our online colleagues here, about our similar backgrounds in the fact that we might even be relatives. We haven't had a chance to really talk about it. But there are denominations that were other than the Church of England, right? most were Calvinists, but there were some other ones that were a little more heretical, including the Anabaptists and the Mennonites. So they also sang that. That's where I came from. My tradition and my heritage is from that. The Pilgrims were dissenters and sang only versified psalms, normally lined out and sung heterophonically. I better push through here. Oh my goodness. By the end of the 17th century, the urban areas were saying, no, this is moribund. Love that word. And toward regular singing. They wanted more toward than what would be considered modern singing. So there needed to be a system of notation and a set of compositions and a way to teach the congregations singing books, per se. So these schools formed into something called the singing school. And these singing schools were taught by singing masters who often were not masters at all, really. But through it all, there was some singing masters who appeared that were composers by, say, the last third of the 18th century. And then they published their compositions in oblong-shaped, hymn-shaped books that became normal for the singing school. Each book had a substantial singing tutorial, offered instruction on notation. I don't know where that word dancing came from. I don't know where that came from. Because trust me, there was no dancing going on. That's weird. They used only solfege. Trust me, there was no dancing going on. Because I grew up in this tradition, and there's no dancing allowed. They used only solfege syllables. And it was customary, of course, as we've already heard, to sing the syllables the first time the song was sung. Okay? And then you sing the verses, right? Then in the 19th century, they were also, and still are today in some areas, very popular social events. Even on the frontiers and in the Midwest and in the South. 1802, so two of these clever singing masters, William Smith and William Little, the two Williams, created shape notes. And each of the four syllables called the fa-sol-la system. Fa is a triangle, sol is round, la is rectangular, and mi is a diamond. And if you've read your which I'm sure you have, read your material, you will have already seen this. After this, most singing schools were published in shape notes after 1802, and it's a notation style that continues to be used to this day. The most successful and prominent publication was The Sacred Harp, published in Philadelphia in 1844. There are still annual conventions where singers assemble to sing from the Sacred Harp and have all day singing with dinner on the ground. Potluck. I love potlucks. And I love church dinners too. I'll go to any church dinner anywhere. I'll have a church dinner. Similar singings and hymn sings have become popular throughout the U.S. since 1980s. I actually used to, when I lived in Chicago, one of the things that I did, and I am not kidding when I tell you this, people would come by the busloads. And there would be a hymn sing. And now, we didn't do shape note singing, but it was a hymn sing. And I mean hundreds of people, and I got to be a soloist, and I got to sing some favorite white gospel tunes and hymns, and it was a blast, and we would sing all night long. And it gave everyone a chance to sing, besides me being a soloist, it gave everyone a chance to sing hymn style, and to keep the hymn sing alive, and we don't want to lose that tradition. No, we don't. And as you saw in your book, here is the shape note system. Pretty basic and quite understandable. Made it very, very doable for anybody. Neat. All right. Oh my goodness. Hopefully I still have my computer recording this. I'm going to double check. I lost Gail, obviously. I don't know if Blackboard is up, but we're going to have Rochelle choose our keyword for the day. If you don't know what potluck is, you will figure it out. So, potluck is the keyword, and I'm going to put that up right now. As long as I'm going to save this lecture. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully y'all will get this. I will transfer it to YouTube, post it to YouTube, and post it back up on here. Okay, keep studying, keep writing, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great day.